Well, first and foremost, Kim, it's been an honor to have your friendship, to all the listeners, to Hall County, and to the entirety of North Georgia. And it's such an honor to be in this space with you guys. And Kim knows that I have a very busy schedule, but it's never too busy to make sure we're speaking to each other in a time where we have 80, less than 85 days to the election in November. So first and foremost, I want to thank you guys. I'm extremely excited to be here. And for those that don't know, I am the Democratic nominee as of the June 9th primary for the Public Service Commission in the state of Georgia. For those of you that don't know, the Public Service Commission regulates your utilities. So if you have a light bill, if you have a gas bill, if you have a water bill, these bills generally, not totally inclusively, are regulated by the Public Service Commission. Some of you all may know about nuclear plant Vogtle, which is almost a $30 billion project in the state of Georgia that many of us are paying for. If you're like me, I have an EMC, I have Cobb EMC, and I have Forsyth, Sony EMC, where I'm located. So there are many ways that utilities are regulated through the Public Service Commission. I don't want to bore you with that whole space. What I want to talk to you about is the urgency and the importance of this race as it relates to not only the presidential election, but as it relates to us getting elected Democrats statewide in 2022, as we've seen an immense failure under Governor Kemp's administration in the handling of COVID-19. And that's actually where I want to start. So we all know, and we're facing such a critical time in our state's history with so many young men and women that are having to do school and online learning. And it's critical for us to understand how this goes into play as it relates to the state of Georgia and preparedness. And that's really the kind of area that I want to focus on in speaking to you all, because for us, we see John Ossoff running. We see another U.S. Senate candidate that's going on. We have multiple Democratic candidates, so I don't want to say a name so it won't come off as an endorsement. But the thing that's most critical is we have a tremendous opportunity to win. That's the first thing I want you all to understand. And we can't do it without counties like Forsyth, Hall County, Raven County, White County. District 4, where I'm going to be representing, is the entirety of North Georgia. As a matter of fact, there are 27 counties in North Georgia that fall under that purview of District 4. Now, the reason why this is so critical in this time, while I hate to see what the pandemic has done to our communities, to our schools, and to our men and women in this state, what we've learned is now where we have not done enough. The Public Service Commission, outside of the regulation of our electric and gas, is really in a position where we're supposed to be investing into wireless broadband infrastructure. There are too many kids in rural parts of our state right now that are facing the challenge of staying home and doing online learning, and they don't have the capacity. Then you have parents that are staying home as well, whether they be senior citizens on a fixed income or working families who don't have the option of telecommuting. And that is a tremendous burden on so many families. So what most of you all should really understand about the Public Service Commission is, first and foremost, there are 5 members to the Public Service Commission. Those 5 members make the decisions from a regulatory standpoint all over the state of Georgia. All 5 of them are Republicans. The last time a Democrat was elected that served in the Public Service Commission was David Burgess, and he was appointed by Governor Roy Barnes. The interesting thing about what I mentioned first and the correlation between this election this year, where we can elect 2 Democrats to the Public Service Commission, myself in District 4, and a gentleman by the name of Robert Bryant in District 1, who's out of Chatham County. The reason why this is so important is we all saw how close Stacey Abrams came in 2018. She obtained 48% of the vote. Well, this is the only statewide constitutional office on the ballot. In 2022, we'll be able to vote for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, labor commissioner, and so on and so forth. What makes this particularly interesting is that the first seat Republicans flipped in the state of Georgia before they took every statewide constitutional office was the Public Service Commission. So I want you all to understand that there's a tremendous opportunity in this day that we have right now in making sure that we can build the infrastructure now so that going into 2022, not looking past the presidential election, I'm not taking a victory lap because we have a tremendous amount of work to do leading up to the November 3rd election. However, the infrastructure that we set now knowing that we need to get Joe Biden elected to the presidency, understanding that we have 2 U.S. Senate seats that we can potentially flip, and understanding that in 2022, those seats and the failure of Governor Kemp's leadership can give us back the governor's mansion, and we have a chance this year, as a matter of fact, to win back the House. And there's so many opportunities that have political ramifications with this particular election. Now, here's what I want you all to understand about this particular opportunity as it relates to the PSC, and it's the fact that right now, climate change is at the forefront of many of our concerns. So when you think about climate change and when you think about the extreme weather that has happened, on July the 15th, the moratoriums ended. What that means, if you haven't paid attention, is on March 26th, March 16th, Governor Brian Kemp put Georgia under a public health emergency. What that did was it allowed him to enact certain powers, such as enabling a moratorium where electric and gas utilities could not be disconnected for whatever reason. The challenges that we face is that as of July 15, the moratorium has been lifted, even though we see the numbers of unemployment continuing to rise. We've seen an economy that has not yet recovered. We've seen young men and women and children who are not able to go back to their K through 12 education or their collegiate education because they're having to make vast transitions in such a critical time. But as it relates to climate change and extreme weather, this is probably, and I'm going to say arguably, the only position in the state of Georgia that directly has an impact from an elected standpoint on climate change and environmental justice. The challenges that we face, and I'll start with the minority community. 68% of minority communities is in proximity to a fossil fuel facility. 68%. When you look at the cases of asthma across the United States of America, you see black and brown children getting those illnesses at 3 times the national rate. And that's a tremendous burden. It's a challenge, and it shouldn't happen to any community. Secondly, we're seeing a tremendous burden when it comes to rates being paid on low and moderate income communities. Now, Georgia, just to put this into perspective, on average, Georgians pay between 18 to 22% of their paycheck on their overall utility bills. Here's why that's a problem. 4% is the national average. I'm going to say it again. The national average is 4% of an individual's paycheck should go to paying their utility bills. But 20% in the state of Georgia is what we're paying on average cumulatively when you think about the collective amounts of utilities we're paying. That has to change. But the problem is we have 5 public service commissioners who unequivocally accept contributions from the utility industry. There's a quote that says, it's hard to get a man to understand a thing when his salary depends on him not understanding it. And that's really what we're up against as it relates to the Public Service Commission. Individuals that are taking money and gifts from the entities that they have been elected to regulate. There is no way for us to get a fair shot. And as a matter of fact, as Georgians continue to struggle, 1.9 million Georgians live at or below the poverty line at the 10.2 million Georgians overall that live in the state of Georgia. The problem with that is that when you think about what the Public Service Commission just voted on, they've literally put Georgia Power in a position at Atlanta Gas and Light to recoup all their COVID losses. What that means is Georgia Power specifically, I'll use it as an example, between March 16th and July 16th, lost somewhere between $7.5 million to $8 million, so they claim. So from a transparency standpoint, what we think would have been the right thing to do is put that in some type of arrears and not put the entirety of that burden on the ratepayer. But that's not what happened. It's not what the Public Service Commission voted on, and it's not what the governor of the state of Georgia supported. What ended up happening was Georgia Power was voted to be able to recoup those costs. This is on top of 2 votes that happened in December of 2019, one being a base rate increase on our electric bills, and the second being a base rate increase on our gas. What that means is that no matter how hot the summer gets, if you cut your air conditioner off, the base rate is going to increase, which means your rates increase. Now, honestly, none of us could have forecast the tremendous burden that COVID-19 would bring. But the problem that we face is even though we didn't foresee it, we didn't have the infrastructure in place to give us a fair shot at recovering. And now that we have 2 base rate increases, we have COVID-19 losses, we have a moratorium that ended, and we now are going into a period where 23 million Americans, including hundreds of thousands in the state of Georgia, are now facing the risk of eviction. So there's so many layers to peel back in this area. But what my challenge to all of you is to understand the importance of, one, going all the way down the ballot. It's not just enough to be angry or upset at Donald Trump and stop at the presidency. You've got to vote for those 2 U.S. Senate seats. For our congressional members and for those who are running for congressional seats, we've got to do a better job of bringing them into the fold. As a matter of fact, what I've been doing around the state of Georgia, specifically in coastal Georgia, middle Georgia, and we've just gotten back from an Eastern Hub conversation with Newton County and Rockdale County. We're looking at what a coordinated campaign looks like from a regional standpoint. Now, I do know, and I've spoken to John Ossoff and I've spoken to the state party, that there will be coordinated efforts. But you and I that are on this call know, and I say this respectfully to the Democratic Party of Georgia, we all understand that too often there's been two perspectives as it relates to elections. The first, that perspective has been a coordinated campaign which is primarily focused on the metro Atlanta region. And we all know that Democrats have not been successful. We come close. But if you're like me, coming close is not good enough. Having great candidates is not good enough. It's time for us to actually win in November. It's time for us to take back these seats and to do our part in flipping the Congress and flipping these various seats. And as a matter of fact, I didn't mention it, but while I represent Forsyth County, Georgia, I'm the former 7th Congressional District Chair, and it was announced today through national polling that the 7th Congressional District, which is a Republican stronghold, is now classified as a toss-up. What that means is that we actually have moved beyond the perimeter into areas where it's competitive at a time where there should not have been as much competition. And that's a direct result of the work that folks in Gainesville and Cumming and Raven County and all over have done. We've slowly done our part. We've begun to run candidates around the state that represent our local interests, and we've done a tremendous job in calling Republicans out in the areas that they have failed our state, failed our communities, and as you see in Paulding County, failed our schools. So I'll end with this point, right? And if there are questions, I'll be happy to stay on for a couple of minutes to answer. But the most important thing that I can tell all of you today as it relates to my position and as it relates to going into this final stretch of this election, this time that we have literally waited for the past 3 years, it's not only, incumbent for you to understand how important your county is. It's so important and it's so critical. If you don't remember anything else I say, I want you to remember and understand the importance of Hall County. Years ago, when I was in Forsyth County, I remember not thinking that we could do anything to move the needle. And we didn't have any Democrats run. Not only did I become the first African American to run for office in Forsyth County, but I was the first Democrat to run in Forsyth County in 27 years. We did that, and while we didn't think it was a blip on the radar, what ended up happening within the following 2 or 3 years is we've now flipped 3 precincts. We've done a tremendous job with leadership under Melissa Klink, who's our current county chair, but we now have competitive races with a Democrat on pretty much every seat in that county, which is why it's important for counties like Hall to take the lead in these areas and to make sure that you're a part of the conversations that are going on with the Biden campaign as they build their operation in Georgia, with what John Ossoff is doing, with what people like Reverend Warnock and the other candidates that are in this race are doing. We all have to bring our ideas, but we have to be very vigilant and we have to be very intentional about the opportunities we have. We hear a lot about the Flint water crisis that happened in Michigan a couple of years ago, but we don't talk about the Savannah River site and the amount of pollution in the rivers around the state of Georgia. We don't talk about the beautification of our mountainous regions and our coastal regions in the state of Georgia. And we don't talk enough about how the elected positions and the individuals that are in these positions can secure a clean energy future. We've got to invest more into solar. We've got to do a better job of positioning a workforce of the future that can bring us into a clean energy economy. And then lastly, we have to make sure that those who are making decisions at the highest level, and specifically at the Public Service Commission, understand fundamentally that each one of our counties in the state of Georgia will not take any environmental malpractice. There are too many areas where we're seeing water contamination. coal ash contamination. We're seeing heightened impacts of lower air quality as people move further north. We're not building the infrastructure out as it should be. So I would like to make sure that you all know and remember my name. I'm Daniel Blackman. I'm running for the Public Service Commission in the state of Georgia, District 4. Remember, this year you can elect two positions, District 1 and District 4. The Public Service Commission is a statewide seat. Even though they're districts, you have an opportunity to vote for those seats. And if you support me, if you go to my website, daniel4georgia.com, you can support our campaign, you can contribute to our campaign, you can volunteer for our campaign, but more than anything else, Kim has my direct phone number, he has my direct email, and if he calls, I answer. If there's any question or concern you have as we get towards the final step in the final phase of our campaign, if there's anything I can do for Hall County, you all were there for me in every decision I've made, and I want to do the same thing as we win in November. So thank you all so much for the opportunity. Thank you for the time. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for being on this call. And thank you for allowing us to get past the finish line on November 3rd.
Thank you, Daniel. Do we have any questions directly to Daniel? I've been trying to keep up with the comment. I don't think I saw any specific questions. If you do have one, unmute yourself like John. I feel like it's fair to ask this. It's a main topic. It even divides some Democrats, but I am interested in just generally your views on the plan. I mean, where should we be? What should we be doing with it?
The Vogel plan is the most fiscally irresponsible decision in the state of Georgia. Bottom line. And we can't blame Republicans for that. In 2009, Democrats and Republicans voted for the expansion of Vogel 3 and 4. For those that don't know, we currently have Vogel 1 and 2. When those projects were created, they were 1,200% over budget. This is the most fiscally irresponsible plan. I met with the CFO, first and foremost, of Georgia Power back in October of last year. He said we'll be paying for Plant Vogel for 60 years. Let me repeat that. He said we will be paying for Plant Vogel for 60 years. My position currently is that, one, we're 4 years behind schedule, and we're now $16 billion over budget. That is way too much, but here's the problem. I think that we've invested so much money into that project that it's hard to just throw away that $16 billion. Now, what I would like to see, and this isn't a decision I can make at the Public Service Commission, I would like to see our state House representatives and our state Senate have some type of reversal where the burden of the building and the expansion of Vogel gets redirected to the shareholders of Georgia Power. You have a CEO at Georgia Power that makes $13 million a year. That's his base salary. On top of that, you have a situation where the shareholders over the past 10 years have been extremely profitable, while the schools, churches, and communities have had to pay for Plant Vogel even though it's not constructed. So I would not have voted for it. I am very closely monitoring the Vogel monitoring plan where Georgia Power submits their updates. But I think what we need to do at this point is look at public and private partnerships into clean energy. We're doing a pretty decent job with solar, but we need to make sure community solar is expanded. And then lastly, it has to be affordable. The average family in the state of Georgia can't afford a $10,000 to $15,000 solar system on their homes. So we need to expand the opportunity with public options and really just open up the door for more people to enjoy and have the benefit of clean energy. Thank you, sir. Hey, man. Correct. That's a great question.
Yeah. Well, let me correct you first. This is the first time in a long time the Public Service Commission is actually third on the ballot. So it will be the presidential race, then it'll be U.S. Senate, and then it'll be your fourth, the congressional seat that's available, and then the Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission generally is about 13 or 14 all the way down the ballot. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Now, to answer your question, and I say this very humbly, we won pretty much throughout the entirety of the state. We got 72% of the vote. And the reason why is when I ran for the Public Service Commission in 2014, one of the first stops I made was Lumpkin County, Hall County, and Forsyth County. And I never left. And one of the things that Democrats have not done a great job of is when we're on the ballot and we don't win, we kind of disappear. So here are the numbers for everybody to be encouraged about. The only contested race in the state of Georgia that got more votes than we got was Joe Biden. And that shocked us. We actually generated more votes than John Ossoff. We were able to attain 690 or 680,000 votes. And Joe Biden attained 796,000 votes. So we got about 100,000 less than Biden. And here's how we did it. We built up infrastructure over the past 4 or 5 years. I've been speaking in White County, Lumpkin County, Raven County, Habersham. I mean, I've been all over the state, not taking days off. So we have a really strong infrastructure around the state, and we've built strong coalitions. As a matter of fact, we had one civic organization in Middle Georgia that phone banked 30,000 people for us. Now, here's why that's important. Because of the time we're in with COVID, we're facing a tremendous challenge of traditional campaigning. So one of the things that we're going to do is specifically and directly really answer this question, we're going to be rolling out a social media strategy. I'm currently in a facility called Tree Sound Studios that creates content, they do production, and they're very much involved in the influencer space around the state. So we're going to be bringing some new ideas that can allow us to use online platforms and social media. It allows us to leverage buying social media ads on Facebook, Instagram. We may even dive into TikTok and Twitch and other spaces to attract younger audiences. But we've got to do as much as we can in this moment to capture the audiences that exist and make sure we're not leaving anyone out of the conversation. Hey Kim, can I say one more thing real quick? We will be holding a statewide environmental summit sometime towards the end of September or the beginning of October. You will know about it, and we are going to be organizing a complete energy conversation, breaking down the PSC, but also making sure that we're including the entirety of the state of Georgia in a conversation about the moratoriums and utility regulation and the opportunities we have if we were to elect 2 Democrats of the Public Service Commission. So thank you.